Hey everybody, what's going on? So today in this video, as you can tell by the title, ooh, hang on a minute, hold on, I might be able to get a fish. Big fish just came swimming straight up towards the bank after little minnows. I don't know if he's gonna bite. I hope he does. But anyway, as you can tell by the title, what I mean by fighting through the pain, because I'm going to title this, if I can remember right, I'm going to title this Fighting Through the Pain During In-Depth Episode, blah, blah, blah. So, what happened, if you guys can see that right there, my hand is kind of messed up. You can see a little bit right there, right here. My hand's a little bit messed up, and it hurts a lot. But we're going to fight through the pain, and we're going to try to get this video and hopefully catch a fish. That would be just an icing on the cake. But me and my little brother were out there wood splitting, and I got my hand mashed between a piece of wood and the backstop for the piece of wood. So it messed up my hand pretty bad, but it's not broken. I can ball up my hand and make a fist, and from everything I've ever heard, as long as you can do that, it means that your hand's not broken. So that's a good thing. Luckily, it wasn't the other end, because if it was the other end, these fingers would be gone. And another thing is, luckily I was able to get it stopped before it went ahead and mashed my whole hand, because it is a very big wood splitter and could very, very easily break my hand without any problems. I mean, it goes through freaking giant logs of wood. It would have, is that a fish? No, that's bottom. And it came out, so that's a good thing. And it came out. But anyway, it could very easily break my hand very quick. So today in this video, as you can tell by the title, we're going to be fishing a neko rig. If you don't know what that is, if you guys can see right there, there's a nail weight in the worm. And I'm going to put that hook right there. And it's basically a nose-weighted wacky rig. So I know for a fact that there's fish feeding, because a couple different reasons. When I first turned on the camera, right here, there was a bass swimming up in this super shallow water. I could see his back. He was chasing something. I don't know if he was chasing bluegill or little minnows, or exactly what he was chasing, but he was chasing something. So, and also before I turned the camera on, I stepped outside of that little shop over there, and there was giant ripples out here in the water. Now, that water pump hasn't been on for the last 30-40 minutes, and I just got out here not even 5 minutes ago, so I know it wasn't that. So evidently something was hitting the surface out here, which is probably, it's probably kind of stupid of me to throw a finesse bait like this here, but it could be a good thing to throw something small, well, not really small, but something more finesse than like a moving bait, like a swim bait or a crankbait. Honestly, with the way my hand is, I don't know if I could throw a swim bait or a crankbait, like multiple casts and stuff, because it still hurts, but if I don't have to reel a whole lot, it makes it a little bit better, a little bit easier for me. So we're going to make a little flip out there. I don't know if there's going to be any bass up here in this shallow water. It's only about a foot right in here. I don't see any. The water is very clear. It's been pretty clear the past few weeks. It's actually dirtied up a little bit in the past like week or so. It was actually really clear, like I could see the bottom of that brush pile all the way down in the middle where it's about 3 feet. I could see the bottom in some spots. So it's muddied up just a hair, but that could be a good thing. When it was super clear, it was actually kind of hard to get them to bite because they could see the bait so much better. And when it's a little bit muddier water like it is right now, I mean, it's still very clear. You got at least a foot of visibility, maybe a little bit more than that. But it can be a little bit easier to catch fish in these little bit of muddier water. Now, don't get me wrong. I love fishing clean water. I've done it a lot. I've fished in places where it was 10-foot visibility. 5 to 10 foot of visibility in some places. And I've caught fish. I've caught a few big ones. I've caught one of my personal bests there. But it's very hard to get them to bite because they see so many baits, and they can tell really easily what's a bait and what's a small fish or a normal worm or whatever. So I don't even think I've really talked about what I'm throwing here, but this bait is called a neko rig. N-E-K-O is how you spell it. Now, like I said in my past few videos, my unboxing video and one of my other videos, is I don't throw this bait very often because I don't have the correct things, but now that I've bought the correct things, I can throw it a little bit more. And basically what it is, get those little piece of grass off there. I don't know what that is. There we go. Basically what it is you take your worm, you put a nail weight in the head right here, then you put your wacky worm hook somewhere along the body. Some people, I've heard, put it in the tail. Now, I don't know about that. I mean, I'd say it would probably increase your hookups a little bit, but I don't know about that. I wouldn't do that because I would probably lose a lot of baits doing that. Because it seems like with this slammer worm, they usually eat it head first. The past fish that I've caught, especially the bigger ones, the 4-pounders, have eaten it head first. So I don't normally hook things in the tail just because I don't want to lose a lot of baits. But anyway, basically where this rig originated, from what I understand anyway of it, is it originated in Japan. And something I didn't know until a few years ago was that bass fishing is very big over in Japan. You see a lot of people talking about the what's that bait called, or what's that company? Jackal. Jackal Bait Company makes the pompadour, and they make some other interesting baits, that's for sure. Now, I personally have not thrown any of their baits. I don't think I have any of their baits, if I remember right. Honestly, I have so many baits, I can't remember. But if I remember correctly, I don't have any Jackal baits, mainly because some of them are pretty expensive. They make the Gilroyd and the, what's that other one called? It's a big swim bait. It's a big bluegill profile swim bait, but I can't remember the exact name of it. There's the Gilroyd, then there's the Gantrel. That's the one I was thinking of, the Gantrel. That one there was, I was actually about to buy one of those the other day when I got my tackle warehouse order. I was going to, but I realized that I am notorious for losing baits. And I don't want to lose a $30 bait. So I didn't buy it. Because knowing me, I would lose it. Because I'd be too careful with it. Never be too careful with something. If you're too careful with it, you'll lose it or you'll break it. At least that's the way it is with me. If I'm too careful with something, I'll break it or lose it. But anyway, so where this rig originated from what I understand, is it came from Japan. And it's basically just a nose-weighted wacky rig, and you fish it slowly on the bottom. Now, a lot of people who fish this rig, as a giant loud semi decides to drive by my house. But anyway, like I was saying, a lot of people who fish this rig absolutely hate fishing it because it's such a slow technique. And it is a very slow technique. You have to move your rod tip very subtly. Is subtly a word? I don't know. Very slowly. I know that's a word. But you have to fish it very slowly, keep it on the bottom, but it's a very natural bait profile. It's a very natural look to the bait, and it works especially in clear water lakes. I've seen people throw these down on Lake of the Ozarks, and I've seen people throw them just about everywhere, from little ponds to pretty big sized lakes. One of my first seeing of this rig was when Ben Milliken from Milliken Fishing talked about it. He was fishing it on Lake of the Ozarks, and that's where I first heard of it. was from his channel. Oops, I messed up that cast, but we might get a fish on it, I don't know. But anyway, that's where I first heard of it, when he was fishing it on Lake of the Ozarks, or some Ozark lake. I don't remember if it was the Lake of the Ozarks, but it was one down that way. Now, a lot of people fish it different ways. They got certain baits for it. I know Yamamoto and a couple other companies have specific baits for it. But personally, I just use all kinds of soft plastics. I've used drop shot minnows, which is basically like a fluke style bait that I make at Doc's Lure Company. I've used dragon worms, and I've used slammer worms. This here is the 8-inch slammer worm. I've caught fish on one of them. To be completely honest with you, I can't remember which bait I was using, because I was out just kind of messing around with this rig and I caught a fish, and I don't remember what it was on. But my favorite color for a very finesse rig like this is green pumpkin. Now, if you're on super clear water, I would opt for either green pumpkin or a brownish color, like the root beer that I make. Something like a root beer color. I personally just like natural colors for any type of fishing, but especially in clear water. Now, this is definitely not a muddy water technique. You don't want to throw this when you got 2 inches of visibility, because the fish won't be able to find it. But if you throw something like this in clear water, you can definitely catch some fish. If you have clear water and smaller fish, you can get away with throwing like little finesse worms. Now, some worms, like my Doc's Lure Company 4-inch ultra finesse worm, they're way too small for it because of the weight. The nail weight is pretty big, depending on the ones you get. Now, I've also seen people, if you guys can see that nail weight right there. Now, I've also seen people, and I've done this, and this is how I caught my first fish on it, because I didn't have any nail weights, was I found a small screw. Just a small useless screw that was just laying around in my shop. I picked it up, screwed it into the head of the bait, put a hook through it, went out here, and was able to catch a fish. That's how I used my first neko rig. And you can do that. It's very easy to do that. You can do that with small baits. That's how you can get away with using the smaller baits. If you want to use a tiny little thin worm with a small little nail or something, like a headless nail, you can do that. And you can catch fish doing it too. A good way to keep your nail weights, because a lot of people's complaints with fishing this rig is that the nail weights don't last long. If you catch a fish and it rips your plastic off, your nail weight's gone. Something else that I've seen people do, now I don't have it like this right here because I just kind of threw this rig together and came out here to fish. Some people will take a little tag end of their line, and they'll tie the tag end onto, I got a bite, maybe, no, maybe not, okay, I think it was just a piece of brush down there. But anyway, they'll take their tag end of their line and they'll tie their weight onto it, and I thought that was a pretty good idea. I've never personally used it, but seems like it's a pretty smart idea for someone who does fish this rig a lot. It would be a pretty smart idea. So what I kind of figure this as is more of a finesse, a little bit less weedless Texas rig, because you want to fish it right on the bottom. You don't fish it like up in the water column like you would a normal wacky worm. If you ever fished a wacky rigged stick bait or finesse worm or something like that, you normally keep it in the middle of the water column. You kind of go down, let it sink to the bottom, and then you jerk it up a few times and then let it slowly fall. With this rig here, because of the weight, it'll go straight to the bottom. And what you do is you basically just barely move the rod tip back and forth. Just like this right here. You reel down, get your bait tight. Just like that. That's all you do. You make sure you're keeping bottom contact. Anytime you're fishing a big worm like this, especially a big worm, bottom contact is 100% key. Anytime I'm fishing a Texas rig or a shaky head or whatever, if I'm fishing in 30 foot of water, I'm going 1/2 ounce all day. Maybe even a full ounce or a 3/4 if I have the weight. But 1/2 ounce is the lightest I'll go to. And I hope, I'm going to sit down here. I'm going to kind of pick it up and move it over here. I'll get down here closer to the water, and I hope you guys can see the bait. I don't know if you guys can or not. But that's basically what you're doing right there. You can see the head of the bait is down on the bottom. And that worm is standing straight up, and then it just kind of slowly falls over. I think it's falling over because the bank is unlevel. It just slowly moves through the water. Looks like a little injured bluegill, or I don't really know what it could imitate, but fish seem to bite it. I've seen a lot of people catch fish on these, and it seems to work. So I don't know, but you can use a bunch of different baits on this. You can use anything from a finesse worm, a fluke style bait. You can use a normal big worm like this. To be honest with you, I think that an 8-inch worm like this one here is about the biggest bait I would use, just because you'll lose, can't talk, but you'll lose a lot of baits using this rig, because it's a very wonky kind of a hookup ratio. Sometimes you'll hook them perfect, and sometimes you won't. It's that kind of a rig. It's the same way with a wacky rig, in my opinion. That's why I don't fish a wacky rig. I just don't like to, because the hookup ratio, for me anyway, is a very odd hookup ratio. Sometimes you'll hook, you might hook 10 out of 5 bass when you go out fishing. Next day you'll get a bunch of bites and you won't hook any of them. It's just very weird kind of a hookup ratio. Sometimes you'll do awesome with the hookups, and sometimes you won't get a single hookup. There's a little baby bass right there. I don't think you guys can see that, but a little tiny baby bass, maybe about 2 inches long. So soon, I don't know when it'll be. I think maybe probably either tomorrow or the next day. Hopefully my hand will be better by then. But tomorrow's actually Friday, so hopefully I'll be able to go fishing Saturday with my cousin. That would be awesome. Get out there with some big baits, big bluegill. Oh, no way, look at that. Dude, that was so cool. Oh, I wish I could have caught that. I don't think it caught it. A fish chased up a baby bluegill, and it landed on one of them lily pads and was sitting there flopping. Holy crap, that was cool. I've never seen that before. That was a baby bluegill too. That's something else that I'm noticing, is there is baby bluegill in here now. Yesterday I didn't see any baby bluegill, and today I came out here and I looked by this brush pile and there was a few baby bluegill. Now there was actually a pretty decent sized baby bluegill as well. Probably a good 2 inches. And that's some awesome bass bait if you're ever out and you're trying to get a fish to commit and you just can't get them on lures. Take you a small tiny size 14 or size 10 hook with a tiny little piece of night crawler. Throw that baby out there, and you can catch some tiny bait fish. Me and my cousin one time, we caught some tiny fish. If you guys remember back when me and him were fishing and I caught that 4-pounder on the Texas Rig Slammer worm, and then I let the fish go and we look back at him and he has this teeny tiny little bluegill. That's what he was doing, and after I caught that bass, I didn't end up getting any other fish, so I started doing that as well, and we actually caught some tiny redfin shiners and tiny little baby bluegill and green sunfish and red breast sunfish and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, he landed right on that lily pad right there. That was cool. I seen something move by it and I was thinking, oh hey, there's a bass, and then I seen this little silver thing flip-flopping. There's a big bluegill right there. Surprisingly, I haven't actually seen a bass swimming out in the shallows, which is really odd. Usually I will. Every once in a while I'll be able to see them. When me and my brother, before I had my hand all messed up, when we drove through here to go stack wood, there was a 2 bass sitting right over here in between that brush and the deeper area. So I don't know where they went. I'd say they probably are one of two places. They're either just in the deep water, or they're just kind of scattered out and they're hard to see. Because that could be, they might just be all scattered out just about a little everywhere. Just about a little bit everywhere. So, hard to say right now. But I know that at least one bass was feeding, because when I first came out here, turned the camera on, there was a little baby bass, or a smaller bass. It didn't look very big, but it was a bass chasing minnows up here, probably chasing either other baby bass, some bass that was smaller than him, or he might have been chasing some of them baby bluegill. Maybe that's what that bluegill there was running from, was a bass. I don't know, but boy, he launched up on that lily pad. I've never seen that. I've actually had a couple things just in the past few days happen that I've never had happen to me before. So I think I might end up wrapping this video up. I apologize. What is that right there? Oh, it's just a big bluegill. There's some bluegill in here. They're green sunfish hybrids. Man, they are so big they make you think they're little bass. But they're actually just green sunfish hybrids. But anyway, I'm sorry that I didn't catch anything in this video. If I do catch anything, I'll post it on Facebook. So follow me on Facebook if you haven't. It's Michael Gerald with the same profile picture that is on my YouTube. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys learned something new about this rig. It's a rig that I don't throw very often, but I think since I have the right tackle for it now, I might start throwing it a little bit more. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to throw it when I go fishing next, because I'm going to be bringing big bait rod and stuff like that. So, not really going to be able to do that. But I might end up getting my fly rod out later, and maybe I'll make a video on that. I don't really know, though. Thank you guys for watching, though. Bye.